When I woke up, I realized my order had been hijacked by something incredibly strange. After 3,000 years in stasis, the world outside had twisted into something I didn't recognize. In the Grand Hall, a sobbing girl from the gold rank, a Tier 3 mage, was pointing a trembling finger at my grandnephew, the master of the Blade Tower, Kane. She was demanding his life because he had apparently roasted her spirit rabbit. I pondered this for a moment. It was just a rabbit. At best, a Tier 1 low-level beast. If you're hungry, you roast it. What's the issue? But she cried even harder, screaming at the top of her lungs. It's not about the rabbit. It's about the attitude. It's his toxic attitude. He doesn't validate my feelings at all. I didn't understand a word of it, but I was deeply shocked. Attitude? Falsely accusing a high-ranking elder and disrupting the Order's grand ceremony. 3,000 years ago, that would get your mana core ripped out and your body tossed into the forge as fuel. Over on the other side, a low-level intern from the logistics division was collapsed on the floor, insisting that the head of internal affairs, my grandnephew Damien Stone, a man approaching the ascendant rank, had sexually exploited her. I swept my psychic radar over her. She was physically untouched, completely chaste. I was about to point this out when she clutched her chest and quavered. My physical purity doesn't matter. It's my mental state. My soul has been violated by his cold, predatory gaze. He must take responsibility, marry me, and heal my trauma. I was lost again. We cultivate the Tao, the path of power, not fragile glass hearts. A look can cause trauma. If I gave her a look, would she ascend to the afterlife on the spot? But the most ridiculous one was the Order's chosen one, the future of the sect, Julian. He had just released Malachur the Devourer, a demon lord sealed away for 90,000 years, and was standing there preaching self-righteous nonsense. Malachur. He's just a child starving for warmth. He was locked up for so long. He must be so lonely and in so much pain. Why can't we use love to rehabilitate him? I finally understood. The Apex Order hadn't been hijacked. It had suffered a collective psychotic break, a severe one, and my sword specializes in curing psychosis. Guards, I thought. Strap them all to the judgment pillar. Today, I'm not talking logic. I'm talking physics. I am Victor Sterling, the Supreme Grandmaster of the Apex Order. I accidentally stayed in stasis for 3 millennia. My power had shifted from the 9th stage of calamity right into the legendary Apex realm. This should have been a day of celebration. But the first thing I saw wasn't the ecstatic faces of my descendants. It was a farce comparable to a reality TV show. The Grand Hall of Apex Peak, a place meant for solemn governance, was shrouded in a resentment I couldn't comprehend. A gold-rank girl screeching like she'd lost her father. A logistics intern acting harder than a Hollywood starlet. A chosen one, with a face full of holy light spewing words more dangerous than any demon. And my disappointing grandson, the current Grandmaster Arthur Pendleton, a Tier 7 powerhouse, was sweating like a waterfall, clearly unable to control the room. I stood outside the hall, cloaked in invisibility, watching quietly. Arthur rubbed his hands together, looking pained as he addressed the crying girl. Tiffany, there must be a misunderstanding. Elder Kane is a pillar of our order. Why would he antagonize you over a rabbit? Tiffany, the crying girl, wailed, Grandmaster, you're being gaslit by him too. He looks down on me. He's jealous because Brad pays attention to me. He's doing this to intimidate me. He's using my rabbit to express his disdain. I frowned. Brad? Oh, I remembered. That talented kid in the platinum rank. Decent looking. But what did that have to do with Kane? Kane, my grandnephew, is obsessed with the blade. He's a Tier 8 master, the one most likely to break through to the next realm. He'd be jealous of a platinum rank boy getting attention from a gold rank girl? Kane doesn't even remember what his own wife looks like. Why would he care about this? A giant question mark floated in my mind. Was this girl kicked in the head by a mule? Even more absurd was that many disciples in the hall were looking at her with sympathy. Yeah, Elder Kane is always so cold. He probably did it. Poor Tiffany. Brad needs to comfort her. That kid Brad was standing to the side, his face shifting between pale and green. He wanted to step forward, but didn't dare. I understood now. This wasn't a logic problem. This was a melodrama I was too old to understand. And Kane, that stoic swordsman, just stood there, sword on his back, and spat out 2 words. I didn't. Concise. Very Kane. But to Tiffany's ears, it was fuel on the fire. See, he doesn't even respect me enough to explain. He's admitting it. He hates me. She cried harder. I closed my eyes. I was tired. When did the culture of the Apex Order become like this? 3,000 years ago, if a disciple dared to make a scene in the Great Hall, the enforcers would have dragged them out and broken their legs. False accusations against an elder? That would get your entire family line hung from the trader's post for 3 days. I decided I couldn't watch anymore. If I kept watching, my newly stabilized apex heart might crack. It was time to remind these brats of the fear of their ancestors. I took one step, and my form materialized in the center of the Great Hall. There was no earth-shattering pressure, no dazzling light show. I just stood there. The noise in the entire hall vanished instantly. It was as if someone had hit the mute button. Everyone's eyes focused on me. Confusion, shock, and then uncontrollable terror. Arthur reacted first. His legs turned to jelly, and he dropped to his knees with a thud, his voice trembling. Grandson Arthur Pendleton welcomes the Supreme Grandmaster's return. Boom! The hall exploded into whispers. Supreme Grandmaster? That's Ancestor Victor, who's been in stasis for 3,000 years. Oh my God, the Ancestor is alive. I'm actually seeing a living legend. Disciples and elders dropped to their knees in waves, terrified to even breathe loudly. Only the 3 drama queens remained frozen. Tiffany's sob got stuck in her throat, forgetting the next note. The intern on the floor forgot to keep trembling. The chosen one, Julian, had the holy light on his face congeal into a mask of shock. My gaze swept lightly across the room. Finally, it landed on Tiffany. You, come here. My voice wasn't loud, but it carried an undeniable authority. Tiffany shuddered and subconsciously shuffled forward, kneeling before me. Speak. You're Rabbit. What happened? I asked. She seemed to find her footing again, fresh tears springing forth instantly. Reporting to the Ancestor, it was Elder Kane. He roasted my bonded familiar, Snowball. Wah. Bondi familia. I raised an eyebrow. Did you sign a soul pact with it? Well, no. A bloodline pact. And no. Then in what way is it a bonded familiar? My voice dropped a few degrees. Tiffany choked, stammering, but Snowball has been with me for 5 years. I consider it the most important part of my life. It's my baby. My heart remained unmoved. I actually wanted to laugh. Her baby, a gold rank mage's life, revolves around a nonverbal rabbit. If this got out, the warlords in the East would laugh their teeth out. Kane. I looked at my grandnephew. Here, Ancestor. Kane bowed. Did you roast a rabbit? Reporting to Ancestor, I did not. Kane's answer was simple. Amen. I nodded. I believed him. Men of the sword have hearts like iron. They disdain lying. I turned back to Tiffany. He said he didn't. Tiffany panicked, shouting, he's lying. Ancestor, you have to support me. He's just jealous. He just can't stand me. Jealous of what? I asked with genuine curiosity. Jealous that your rank is higher? Or jealous that you'll live longer than him? Tiffany was speechless for a moment, then squeezed out a sentence. He's jealous that Brad treats me well. Dead silence filled the hall. Even Brad looked like he wanted to find a crack in the floor and vanish. I finally couldn't hold back a chuckle. A Tier 8 Blade Master is jealous of a Tier 4 boy being nice to a Tier 3 girl? Who taught you this logic? Tiffany's face turned the color of pig liver. She apparently hadn't expected the legendary Ancestor to be so blunt, but she didn't give up, clinging to her twisted logic. Ancestor, it's not about jealousy. It's about the power dynamic. It's his attitude toward us marginalized disciples. He sits high above, indifferent to life. Today he roasts my Snowball. Tomorrow he could. Stop. I cut off her monologue. I have cultivated the Tao for 10,000 years, and I hate 2 things. First, people crying in front of me. Second, people talking nonsense. You're doing both. My eyes went cold. Tiffany went silent instantly, shaking like a leaf. I don't care about attitude. I care about facts. You say Kane roasted your rabbit. Do you have evidence? Tiffany panicked. Near Elder Kane's quarters, I smelled the scent of burnt Snowball. Smell. I smiled. Just based on a smell? Yes. It was the smell of heartbreak. Others can't smell it, but I can, she emphasized. I rubbed my temples. Talking to someone this delusional was a test of my apex rank mental fortitude. Fine. I couldn't be bothered to argue. Logic doesn't work on these people. You have to use magic. Or rather, force. I extended a finger, pointing at Tiffany's forehead. A sliver of golden consciousness, almost imperceptible, slipped in. Truth trance. It's a minor spell, harmless to the soul, but makes the subject speak their subconscious truth without filters. Tiffany's eyes instantly went glassy. I spoke, my voice laced with compulsion. Now tell me, why did you frame Kane? In the hall, everyone held their breath. Tiffany, staring into nothingness, spoke in a dreamy, monotone voice, spilling everything like beans from a jar. I like Brad. But Brad only cares about training. He never looks at me. I heard he admires strong, silent types like Elder Kane. I thought, if I created a conflict where Elder Kane bullied me, and I looked fragile and helpless, Brad would step up to protect me. My snowball, it just ran off. I don't know where it is. I just needed an excuse. Any excuse to make Brad look at me. Why won't he look at me? Why? A true confession. Moving, really. If the setting weren't so inappropriate, I'd applaud her acting skills. As her voice faded, the hall erupted. The truth was so absurd. Brad's face had turned purple. He looked ready to die of embarrassment. Kane's face was black as the bottom of a pot. He had dedicated his life to the sword. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? A Tier 3 girl using him as a stepping stone to get a boy's attention. The sword energy radiating from him was starting to leak out uncontrollably. I waved my hand, lifting the truth trance from Tiffany. She jolted, waking up to see the looks of contempt, anger, and shock surrounding her. She instantly realized what had happened. No, I didn't. That was fake. It was you, Ancestor. You. She tried to argue, but my glare forced the rest of her words back down her throat. Are the facts clear? My voice echoed through the hall. Arthur lowered his head in shame. Clear. It is my incompetence, Ancestor. Please punish me. Your punishment comes later. My gaze locked back onto Tiffany, who was now limp as mud. Tiffany Blair, disciple, is here. According to the laws of the Apex Order from 3,000 years ago, what is the penalty for framing an elder and disrupting the order? Arthur immediately answering Ancestor. Stripping of all magic, crushing of the limbs, expulsion from the mountain, never to set foot in our domain again. He spoke with iron certainty. Clearly, he was sick of this toxic atmosphere too. Hearing this sentence, Tiffany broke down completely. No, don't. Ancestor, mercy. She slammed her head against the floor, bleeding. I was wrong. I was really wrong. I was just confused. I just love Brad too much. Is it a crime to love someone? She was back to her emotional logic. I sneered. Loving someone isn't a crime, but your love is cheap. Cheap enough that you'd pave your road with someone else's reputation and the Order's laws. In my court, if you're wrong, you own it. If you're punished, you stand tall. I looked away from her, addressing the enforcers. Drag her out. Execute the sentence. Yes. 2 enforcers stepped forward, dragging the wailing Tiffany away like a dead dog. Her cries faded into the distance. The hall was dead silent. Every disciple looked down, afraid to make eye contact. They felt it. The long-lost, unquestionable, iron-blooded rule of the Order. No votum facis. No exceptions. Just cold, absolute justice. I was satisfied with the effect. A healthy organization doesn't need interpersonal drama or complex relationships. It needs 2 things, rules, and a fist to enforce them. Now, for the second one. My eyes turned to the logistics, in turn, still pretending to be dead on the floor. You. Come here too. Crystal, the intern, shook like a sieve. She crawled to my feet, face pale. Ancestor. Mercy. Head up. I commanded. She looked up, trembling. Pretty, but her eyes were full of calculation. Name. Disciple. Crystal. You claim Damien harassed you? I looked at the expressionless Damien Stone nearby. He practiced the path of absolute indifference, harassing an intern. He wouldn't waste time looking at a stray dog. Damien bowed. Reporting to Ancestor, absolutely not. Amen. I nodded. I believe him too. I looked at Crystal. I scanned you. You are untouched. Where's this harassment coming from? Crystal seemed to have anticipated this. She took a deep breath and began her performance. Ancestor, see clearly. I wasn't talking about physically. She clutched her chest, looking heartbroken. It was spiritual. It was emotional. Director Stone. He looked at me with those cold, unfeeling eyes. It was like a sword piercing my soul, dirtying my pure heart. My mental stability, my inner peace is shattered. She sobbed. I'm just a lowly intern. My only dream is to gain a manicure and live a long life. But now, he's ruined everything. He must take responsibility. Responsibility how? I asked. He must marry me. Use a lifetime of warmth to heal the damage he caused. She gathered her courage and shouted it out. Puffed. A disciple with poor self-control laughed out loud, then turned beet red under the glare of an elder. I almost laughed in anger. Incredible. The technical skill of this grift was even higher than the last one. She escalated from physics straight to metaphysics, and she wanted a Tier 7 powerhouse to marry her. Why didn't she just ask for the whole world as a dowry? A look could defile a soul. I looked at her like she was a rare species. Yes, Ancestor. That kind of trauma is invisible, but it's the most deadly. Good. I nodded. Since it is damage on the soul level, naturally we must use soul-level methods to verify it. Crystal froze, not understanding. A second later, she understood. My hand landed on her skull without warning. An irresistible, savage psychic force slammed into her mind palace. Soul Search, the most brutal, invasive technique in the magical world. It could turn someone into an idiot or shatter their soul entirely. No one expected the Ancestor to use such a nuclear option on an intern. Crystal didn't even have time to scream. Her eyes rolled back, and her body convulsed violently. Her memories, her secrets, everything was violently flipped open like a book in her own mind. A few seconds later, I retracted my hand. Crystal slumped to the floor, foaming at the mouth, completely lobotomized. She would be a vegetable for the rest of her life. My eyes held no pity. You want to play high-stakes games? Be prepared to cash out. My gaze coldly swept to a corner of the hall. There, Elder Vance of the Alchemy Division was trembling slightly. Vance, I spoke plainly. Vance jolted, scrambling out of the line to kneel. The disciple is here. You have a grandson named Kyle. Inner Circle disciple, correct? Yes, Ancestor. Vance was sweating through his robes. As I recall, Damien was looking for a personal apprentice 100 years ago. Your grandson Kyle and another disciple, Liam, were the top candidates. My voice was unhurried, but hit Vance like a sledgehammer. In the end, Damien chose Liam. Your grandson Kyle held a grudge, believing Liam stole his glory and opportunity, correct? Vance shook harder. This. My grandson is young and arrogant, narrow-minded, but he wouldn't dare. I ignored him. So, you grandfather and grandson came up with a brilliant plan. Have us in turn, Crystal, frame Damien. If it succeeds, Damien's reputation is ruined, dragging his apprentice Liam down with him. Then you fan the flames of public opinion and knock Liam out of his position. Quite the move, pulling the rug out from under them. What a sinister calculation. Every sentence drained more color from Vance's face. By the end, he looked like a corpse. This information came directly from Crystal's mind. She wanted status. Kyle promised to make her his concubine. Vance backed her. Too bad. The mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. They never dreamed I would wake up, or that my problem-solving method would be so direct. Did I miss anything? Vance's lips quivered. He couldn't speak. The facts were there. Irrefutable. Guard. My voice was as cold as the netherworld. Take Vance and his grandson Kyle. According to order laws, plotting against a fellow member, slandering a division head. This is treason. Destroy their mana cores. Throw them in the dungeon. Let the 1,000 ants chew on their hearts until their souls fade. Expel their families within 3 generations. Permanent blacklist. As for this thing, I pointed at the drooling vegetable on the floor. She wanted to climb the social ladder. Let's help her. Throw her in the viper pit behind the mountain. Let her get close and personal with the snakes. Brutal. Absolutely ruthless. Everyone was terrified out of their minds. This wasn't just cleaning house. This was scorching the earth. The hall was silent enough to hear a pin drop. They finally realized the decisive, rule-bound apex order was back. And I watched it all calmly. Trash removed. The air felt fresher. Now, the last one, and the most annoying one. I turned my eyes to the chosen one, standing straight as a rod. Julian was the only user of ether magic, a heavenly root the order had produced in centuries. Unparalleled talent, blessed by destiny. The hope of the apex order. So he was spoiled. Spoiled to the point of delusion. Spoiled into terminal moral superiority. I looked at him. He looked at me. No fear in his eyes. Instead, there was confusion and pity. Like he was looking at a stubborn old boomer who didn't understand universal love. Julian, disciple is here. He bowed, neither humble nor arrogant. Do you admit your guilt? Disciple knows no guilt. He shook his head, looking righteous. I only did what I believe is right. Right? I asked. Your version of right is releasing the netherworld demon lord who was sealed for 90,000 years? That demon lord slaughtered 3 human megacities and devoured 10 million souls. His hands are dripping with innocent blood. Releasing him makes you an enemy of humanity. That is your right? My voice carried genuine anger now. The first 2 were just internal rot. This Julian, his actions could bring extinction to the order, maybe the world. Facing my interrogation, Julian didn't back down. He puffed out his chest, his face glowing with a fanatical light. Ancestor, you only see his crimes, not his pain. He began his sermon. I read the ancient texts. Malachar wasn't born a demon. He was a brilliant human mage in the ancient era. He fell because he loved a demon princess and was persecuted by so-called righteous sects. He isn't evil. He's just hurt, deeply hurt, locked under the tower for 90,000 years. Imagine the loneliness. I communed with him mentally for 3 days. I felt his pain and his craving for warmth. He's just a child seeking love. If we give him enough love, enough warmth, he can be rehabilitated. Why must we fight? Why can't we use love to dissolve hatred? His speech was passionate, tear-jerking. A few sentimental female disciples were actually wiping away tears. Lord Malik, so poor. He has such a tragic backstory. Listening to this almost slapped him into the bedrock. A child? A demon lord who's been alive for hundreds of thousands of years is a child? Craving warmth? He craves fresh meat and souls. Rehabilitate? With what? Are you going to feed him your ether core as a snack to rehabilitate him? I have seen stupid people in my life, but never this stupid. And stupid with such fresh, innovative confidence. Finished? I asked blankly. Julian nodded. Finished. Please, ancestor, understand my intentions. Amen. I understand your intentions. I nodded. You think he could be rehabilitated? Yes, ancestor. I believe it. Julian's eyes shone with idealistic light. You are willing to rehabilitate him personally. I am. Even if I die. He looked resolute. Excellent. The corners of my mouth curled into a cold arc. I grant your wish. Julian blinked. He hadn't expected me to be so progressive. A look of joy appeared on his face. Thank you, ancestor. I will not let you down. I will guide Malachur to the light. Don't thank me, I said flatly. You earned it. As the words fell, I grabbed at the empty air. Boom! The entire mountain range shook. The sky changed color as a massive spatial vortex tore open. A giant hand made of pure energy reached into the tear, diving into some unknown demon dimension. Roar! A sound of shattering malice erupted from the vortex. Ha ha! Old fools of the Apex Order. I have returned. Prepare for blood and fire. It was Malachur, the demon lord who had just escaped. He clearly hadn't grasped the situation yet. A second later, his laughter turned into a shriek of terror. No, this is Apex rank power. Impossible. Victor, you old fossil, you're not dead. The giant hand gave him no chance. It grabbed his massive demonic body like a baby chick and dragged him back through the vortex. The once invincible Malachur was immobilized, howling impotently. The hall watched in stupefied silence. This was the power of the Supreme Grandmaster, catching a world-ending threat like a stray cat. Even Julian was stunned. His jaw dropped, the holy light on his face cracking for the first time. I ignored them. Left hand gripping the demon lord, right hand forming a sword seal, I slashed at the plaza outside. Space warped. A massive golden barrier rose from the ground, encasing 1,000 meters square. This barrier was woven with my Apex rank time and space laws. 10 Malachurs couldn't break out. In you go. I tossed him. Malachur's massive body hit the floor of the barrier like a sack of garbage. He immediately attacked the walls, but they didn't budge. Done. I looked at the frozen Julian. Now it's your turn. Julian's face finally changed. From idealistic flush to realistic pale. Ancestor. What do you mean? His voice shook. Didn't you say you wanted to fix him? I asked matter-of-factly. I was worried he'd run around, making it hard for you to work your magic. So I brought him back and prepared a nice, quiet place for you. Look, it's perfect. I pointed at the golden cage. I set the timer for 10,000 years. Inside, you can't get out, and no one can get in. I've given you plenty of time to communicate, understand, and love each other. Go. Warm his lonely heart. I spoke lightly. But to Julian, it sounded like the devil's whisper. Lock him in a cage with a notorious demon lord for 10,000 years. That's not rehabilitation. That's feeding a sheep to a tiger. No, ancestor. That's not what I meant. Julian panicked completely. The holy aura gone, replaced by primal fear. I can't go in yet. My power isn't high enough. I need time. Wait until I hit the apex rank. No need to wait. I cut him off. Rehabilitation relies on the power of the heart, not mana. Isn't that what you said? I believe in you. With your heart full of universal love, you will succeed. I waved my hand. An irresistible force lifted Julian and hurled him toward the barrier. No. Julian let out a squeal like a slaughtered pig. He watched helplessly as the barrier approached, revealing Malachur's fanged grin and cruel eyes inside. He, a tender ether user. My favorite. Malachur laughed, a sound that curdled blood. Amidst Julian's despairing screams, he was thrown accurately into the cage. Snap! The barrier sealed. I had thoughtfully made the barrier one-way transparent. Outside looking in, clear as day. Inside looking out, nothing. This was to facilitate study and observation for the disciples. Done. I clapped my hands like I'd just taken out the trash. 3 problems solved. Does anyone else have an opinion? I scanned the hall slowly. Silence. Absolute silence. Every disciple, every elder kept their heads down, trembling. No one dared look at me. Opinions? Who dared? They understood now. This ancestor was a pure pragmatist, a cold-blooded problem-solving machine. You talk feelings? He talks rules. You talk spirit? He talks physics. You talk universal love? He locks you in a cage with your project for 10,000 years. In front of this man, all the Twitter threads, all the emotional blackmail, all the virtue signaling was a joke, fragile. Inside the great hall, the silence was deathly. The previous atmosphere of restless noise and bizarre melodrama was replaced by cold, absolute order. I was pleased. This is what an order of mages should look like. Quiet, lethal. What remained was to prune the twisted branches of these saplings and straighten out their thinking. I looked at the shivering Arthur. Arthur, grandson is here. Arthur knelt lower. As Grandmaster, your control was weak. The culture rotted, your judgment was poor, and your actions ineffective. Do you admit your guilt? I admit it. Please punish me. Arthur was sweating bullets, offering no defense. Penalty. Wall facing at the Demon Suppression Tower for 300 years. Cain will act as interim Grandmaster. Disciple. Accepts. Arthur slammed his head on the floor, actually relieved. 300 years of timeout was a mercy. I looked at Cain. Cain. Here. As Master of the Blade Tower, a Tier 8 powerhouse, you stood silent before the unreasonable tantrums of a Tier 3 disciple. You failed to use thunderous means to defend your dignity and the orders. You're also at fault. Penalty. Enter the Blade Tomb. Meditate for 100 years. Cain froze, then lit up. Disciple. Thanks the ancestor for his grace. The Blade Tomb was a reward ground for heroes. He knew I was chastising him, but also grooming him. Having dealt with leadership, I addressed the crowd. From today on, the Apex Order has new rules. I stepped out of the hall into the plaza. I raised my hand and pressed down on the earth. Rumble. The ground cracked, and a 100-meter-tall monolith of obsidian rose from the depths. I used my finger as a pen, mana as ink. The characters I carved glowed with terrifying power. The Apex Rules 1. No impotentrai. If you have a problem, show your rank. The strong make the logic, the weak shut up. 2. No emotion el blackmal. The path of magic is cold. Keep your feelings to yourself. Anyone using love to excuse incompetence goes to the Beast Mountains to discuss feelings with the monsters. 3. No performative virtue. Nature has predators. Anyone trying to save villains gets packed up and shipped to the demon realm to help them transcend. 4. I own the final interpretation of the above. I finished. The entire plaza stared at the monolith. Every word was a sword piercing their brains. Simple, brutal, unreasonable, yet strangely reassuring. Yes, this is the magical world. Strength rules. When did we become so soft, agonizing over vague feelings? Many disciples' eyes cleared. The fog in their minds vanished. Their resolve hardened. But ideology must be fixed at the root. The monolith was step 1. Next, I cast my psychic net over the entire order. Library. A group of novices wasn't studying spells, but huddling over a trashy novel titled The Alpha Sword Lord Loves Me. I flicked a thought. Boom! A bolt of purple lightning vaporized the book. The novices wet themselves and ran to train. Alchemy lab. Girls crying over a failed potion. Boo-hoo, mister. Potion, you died so tragically. I couldn't watch. Whoosh. An invisible force tossed them and their cauldron into the latrine. Wake up. Beast Park. Disciples cuddling a cute treasure mouse while neglecting the armored war rhinos because they were ugly. I sighed. I teleported the mouse into the rhino's trough. The disciples were sentenced to shovel rhino dung for a year. Learn what cute really costs. The Apex Order was thrown into chaos. Every slacker, every drama queen, every person not doing their job received a friendly greeting from the ancestor. The effect was instant. Within a day, the atmosphere cleared. Training enthusiasm skyrocketed. People walked faster. Eyes were sharper. No more did you eat greetings. Now was did you level up? The whole order vibrated with a train or die energy. Arthur, facing the wall at the tower, wept tears of joy. This was the Apex Order. Having finished my purge, I returned to the Ancestor's Peak. Clouds, mist, silence. Just like 3,000 years ago. I brewed tea and sat by the cliff, looking down at the rejuvenated sect. But I pondered, what made a top-tier order rot so badly in just 3,000 years? Did hearts change? Or did the era change? The strange logic, the viruses of the mind, it was like a plague. It eroded the will to power, replacing it with cheap self-pity and performative essays. If this continued, we wouldn't ascend, we'd be wiped out. I sipped the tea. Maybe I should reflect too. Was 3,000 years too long to sleep? Was I too trusting? A sect's strength isn't just in its nukes, but in its culture. I needed to stay awake a bit longer. I needed to stamp the mental brand deeper into these kids. Make them understand one basic truth. In this world, a sword works better than tears. Strength matters more than attitude. My rectification movement made big waves. News spread across the eastern region, especially the part about locking the Chosen One in a cage with a demon lord. A few days later, a streak of light arrived. It was Seraphina, the saintess of the Elysium Sanctum. Rumor had it she and Julian were a toxic couple. She was here to get justice. Cain, as acting grandmaster, met her. Elder Cain, the sanctum asks, what crime did Julian commit to deserve such torture? Seraphina was arrogant. Cain, hardened by my teachings, replied coldly. He released a demon lord. That is treason. The ancestor gave him a chance to rehabilitate the demon. It is mercy. Preposterous. Seraphina yelled. Julian has a kind heart. He couldn't bear to see suffering. You brutes only know violence. You don't know how to heal with love. Cain frowned. He couldn't communicate with this woman. Different species. If you disagree, take it up with the ancestor. Fine, I will meet this unreasonable old man. Seraphina stormed toward my peak. I was drinking tea when a girl in white charged up, face full of justice. Seraphina of Elysium Sanctum greets Senior Victor, no respect in her tone. Senior, I have a question. I didn't look up. Speak. Julian is kind. Not killing is the height of mercy. Why humiliate him? Locking him with a demon is murder. She stood on the moral high ground. I put down my cup. First, he isn't merciful. He is stupid. Ridicigna de mon qu'il million. A toddler knows this. Second, I'm not humiliating him. I'm enabling him. He wanted to fix the demon. I gave him the room. Isn't that supportive? Third, I finally looked at her. My eyes went dead cold. You are an outsider. What gives you the right to question how I discipline my house? Is the sanctum overreaching, or do you think your head is harder than my fist? Seraphina froze, her arrogance extinguished by the chill in my eyes. But she held on. Senior, you are bullying the weak. You are being unreasonable. Reasonable? I laughed. On my mountain, my word is reason. You want reason defined by performative pity that sacrifices the many for the ego of the one. My reason is consequences. It is peace through strength. Now, whose reason is harder? Seraphina was speechless. Her elders behind her looked sick. They sensed it. Absolute apex power. I'm in a good mood, so no killing today. My voice appeared in their ears. Two choices. 1. Get out. 2. Stay and join Julian in the cage. Choose. No third option. Leave or die. Seraphina's face went white. She saw the intent in my eyes. The saintess title meant nothing here. We're going. An elder grabbed her, and they fled in a panic. I watched them go, trying to pressure me with morality. Goo. In my day, we call that suicide. With the sanctum gone, peace returned. The order thrived. Disciples competed in output, not drama. The monolith became the first lesson for newbies. They listened to stories of the ancestor with awe. See that? Don't be a snowflake, or the ancestor will toss you in the viper pit. And the golden cage became a tourist spot. Disciples watched Malachur kicking Julian around like a soccer ball. Julian would scream, "Let's talk. Love can fix this," and get stomped. It was a great deterrent. Months later, a logistics report came in. Ancestor, a disciple reported, beast production is up 30%. Oh, what? Before, caretakers only fed the cute animals and ignored the ugly ones. Now, everyone focuses on stats. If it produces resources, it eats well. No more crying over breakups during feeding time. I listened, amused. Even animal husbandry had been infected by drama. I waved them off and sipped my tea. More months passed. Recruitment season. The crowd was massive. Young people flocked to us. They didn't want soap operas. They wanted the path of power. They wanted the no-nonsense sect. I stood on the clouds, watching the fresh faces. Cain stood beside me. Ancestor, everything is on track. But the cage. 10,000 years? Julian is a heavenly root. I glanced at him. Talent is not a license to be an idiot. If his mind is weak, high power just makes him a more dangerous demon. Let him grind. When he can kill that demon with a sword, he can come out. Understood. Cain bowed. I looked at the horizon. Cultivation is lonely. It requires iron will, not tears. Feelings just slow down your blade. I unstoppered my flask and took a swig of strong spirits. It burned going down. Good. This is magic. Story complete.